Radio Hall of Fame. Our newest inductee into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, you might actually say is responsible for another Hall of Famer that's to be inducted this Saturday night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And why, you may ask that, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio? Well, it was because of his match against the resident rock star, Sean Jovi, the man who will take his place in history to close out our third class in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame Saturday night, that has led him to the Summer of Jovi, the best run of his career, and where he's now become the Foundation's rock star, where simultaneously that match solidified the legacy of our newest inductee into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, winning his first major championship in nearly 17 years, one of the longest championship droughts in the entire sport of wrestling, all forms of wrestling, I may add. Our newest inductee into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, you might even say, is responsible for another superstar that's also holding a championship in a company we've covered quite a bit called WCE, Wrestling Championship Entertainment, for the best run of their career, because if you saw earlier this week, it looks like after a year in the making, their feud has finally come to an end. And you might even say that the new Messiah showed a side of respect unlikely. But when I think about our newest inductee into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, his legacy goes above beyond wins and losses. It's his love for this sport of wrestling, which has made so many others around him that much better, in places such as Wrestling Championship Entertainment and Iowa's Midwest Federation Wrestling Company, which has an upcoming show, which we'll be talking a lot about tonight here, called The King of the Center, which will take place 2 weeks from Saturday. Our newest inductee into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame is also important because when I think about Wrestling Championship Entertainment, in many ways, our newest inductee into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame has become their spokesman of the company in terms of his ability to constantly talk and defend the company and also talk about wrestler after wrestler that's come on here. And he is also, in his time in Wrestling Championship Entertainment, has reinvented backyard wrestling in all forms of wrestling, as I would say, as the leader of Vector, whereas he has helped groom the likes of Tyler Ark, who was the most improved wrestler in WC this past year. And it's been his legacy in WCE, where he's had some memorable wars, in addition to the likes of the resident rock star Sean Jovi, Darkfire, Craven Rage, a very controversial figure, some would say, on Sportswire Radio's 5-year history. And of course, can never forget James Marshall, those famous wars last summer, 2022, for those interstate open weight championships, and so much more that he's done in his career that we haven't touched the surface for, but we'll talk about for sure tonight, because this is his special moment. But also, before we congratulate our newest inductee as the 28th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, we have to remember somebody whose legacy will always go above and beyond this sport of wrestling we all love because of his impact to train so many that have graced Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, including our newest inductee, Nicholas Crenson, as we especially remember the life of the late, great Tim Mecca, who was responsible for so many superstars that have come on Sportswire Radio, as I mentioned, such as Nicholas Crenson, such as James Marshall, and of course, the next inductee after Nicholas Crenson, the resident rock star, Sean Jovi. I'd like to take a moment and remember the life of Tim Mecca before we officially congratulate the 28th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Mecca, we will always be smiling at you, and we will always do our best to make sure that your impact will be felt as long as yours truly, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, and your voice of all wrestling, the Reverend Tom Bryce, has a pulse. But I could go on and on and on about our newest inductee into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But it's now time for him to take his place alongside so many greats that are in our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, such as the likes of the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, the only person in the entire country of Britain to be a major boxing and wrestling world champion, Jumping Dean Allmark, who just celebrated his 24th year in the world of wrestling, who's defeated the likes of Jushin Thunder Liger, Bryan Danielson. TBW owner and founder Josh Allen, XCW owner and founder Josh Fletcher, of course his teammates, you might even say, in the IMF, and of course it's his show, Omen Black, the seventh member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the hardcore god who, oh, by the way, defeated our newest inductee into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Soldier GP, our IMF world champion, Luke Leyland, the only person ever from Britain to have fought in Dombay, Chris Jones, XCW Hall of Famer turned Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer, also the leader of EBW. I can go on and on and on and on and mention all of the other members that are in our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But as I've stated, it's time to congratulate the 28th member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. And Nicholas Crenson, before you get a chance to take your place in history, as I've done prior to the previous 27 inductees, it's time to get that introduction that everybody else has come to know and love on Sportswire Radio throughout our 5-year history. So with that, without further ado here on the Sports Report, number one, Global Sports Show, the 28th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, from WC and the IMF. They call him the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. My friend, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Reverend. And oh my God, I didn't think you could top your intros, but I think that might have been the best one you've ever given me.
Well, you know what? I got to say this, and I want to especially say hello, first of all, to Justin Parsley, the third member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Also, the only person that's in our Hall of Fame that was actually inducted in 2 Hall of Fames in one day. He was simultaneously inducted into the XCW Hall of Fame. Then a few short hours later, he was inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. I want to give a huge shout out to him. Of course, he is one half of the XCW Tag Team Champions. He is the first real wrestler, and he is one of our all-time favorites here on this platform. But I want to say, actually, we technically did top, with all due respect to all of our many great Hall of Famers on Sportswire Radio. It is now 28. I mean, it's certainly filling up here quicker than a New York minute, but this was actually the longest speech I've given of all of them. You know, it was actually Chase Wakefield was the longest. Cyrus, I think as each one I've done, it's gotten longer and longer, but yours was actually the longest, and there was I obviously want to touch upon. In a lot of ways, your legacy goes above and beyond wins and losses. I think your legacy goes also above and beyond the amount of championships you've won, but also who you've been responsible for in the best years of their career. But also, I obviously wanted to pay my respects to the late, great Tin Mecca, who I know meant so much to you. And I know that he wishes, and we all wish, that he would have been here for us to see you take your place in history. And I know that obviously we'll continue to remember him. And for sure, when we start the season officially, whenever that time might come in WCE, we will certainly give another moment of silence to Tim Mecca. But I certainly want to remember the Mecca family here. And we wish that Tim Mecca was here to be able to see this. But I wanted to make sure that I remembered him before we obviously asked you some things about being in the Hall of Fame and also present you with something.
Right. And, you mentioned Tim. It's kind of sadly ironic that 2 of the people who helped shape me in wrestling have both passed away in in 2023. One at the beginning, one at the end. Because we lost Damon Knight at the start of the year, and then we lost him at the end of the year. Right? Like, really, the only two of the people that helped train me are still around. Actually, I was hanging out with one of them being Jonathan Pierce, and the other being Bizzo Blaze.
We've had Bizzo on the show, and we saw Bizzo return to the ring for the first time, and I think about a decade, and he came back against Craven Rage, and that was certainly an honor. But I just, again, wanted to certainly remember the Mecca name and what he meant. I know he meant so much to you, James Marshall, the unhinged one, and also obviously Sean Jovi, the resident rock star, and just, again, he meant so much to so many of us here. And obviously getting a chance to cover WCE for the past year and a half, I just, one more time wanted to send my, condolences, but also give that moment of silence, because it's, really, it's tough. I know. And I know it's going to be tough when we especially get into warmer weather, when he's not going to be there with us. And I just wanted to one more time give a moment of silence.
Right.
Okay. We can.
Okay. Let's get on to more interesting things right now.
Well, first, so let's talk about. I want to say hello to everybody, and yes, thank you. Stay patiently, and we will certainly come back to you. But I have to ask you the question now. Let's obviously go into business. And now, what does it officially mean to you, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, and for the many fans of yours, WC and the IMF? What does it now mean to you to be in the Sport Hall of Fame?
It kind of helps me feel justified. And
why? I did not expect that answer. Okay, tell us why.
Okay. This makes me feel justified in my decision to come back to wrestling. Like, I was done. I was done. And then I got into a car accident, and then I was like, well,
talk about that on prior shows.
Yeah. And I was like, well, might as well go see if I still can go in the ring. Got a little bit of training, but then WCE happened. And like, this here justifies my decision to come back. Not only this, but seeing the reactions of people that watch wrestling, seeing people, come up to me and ask me to sign their shirts, and just being able to tell such interesting and amazing stories in the ring. That's what I am. I'm a storyteller through and through.
Well, you've done that, and I think that your impact in WC these past few years, and I put the IMF as well, because we've seen you so much in the IMF of late, is that you have been telling storylines. You've been telling storylines. We think about 2022, the wars with James Marshall. We also think about the wars that you certainly have had with Darkfire, who I kind of alluded to. We'll get to him in a little while.
Yeah.
We also think about Sean Jovi, who's going in next, and he's going to be our final member of the third class in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. In a lot of ways, you're really responsible for him going into the Hall of Fame, and also him having the best run of his career and really transforming himself. I mean, we always knew, Sean Jovi, RCW, was his championship, but in many ways, that gave him the jump start to his career, where now, Sean Jovi is everybody knows Sean Jovi in so many different places. I mean, his YouTube following has exploded. We've seen him in different places. He's a legitimate top draw now, really, because we think of your feud there with him late in the spring, early summer of this year. I mean, I think that was the feud of the year in WCE.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, whenever I target somebody or go after somebody, it's because there's something that they're missing, and I want to pull that out of them. And I managed to, one, win the RCW World Underground title, but I also managed to push Sean to a level that I don't think he realized he could get to.
I don't think anybody saw that coming, and we've seen it in a way slowly kind of creep into who he is. We've started to see kind of the shades of gray, you might want to say, in terms of just Sean Jovi becoming something, even with that relationship with another man that you recently had a match with, and I'm going to get to him in a little while in Darkfire. And Sean Jovi is kind of, he's welcome now this role in the foundation. He's welcome being the IMF. He's welcome now being this guy that's had, kind of this attitude that I think we've seen him become so successful, whether it's defeating the likes of Ox McCoy, even. You see everything he's done in the wars that he's been in. Craven Rage, certainly. I mean, you can go up and down the list. James Marshall, can never forget about the war that they had. But the point is, Jovi's on another level right now, and I would dare say that in this sport, Jovi's he's at the top of. That's why it's easy to see why he's foundation, but also to see from the moment you and him were feuding late in the spring, early summer, where his career has went since. And that's why I said it again. As the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, your voice of all wrestling, the Reverend Tom Bryce, that in many ways you were responsible for Sean Jovi getting his moment in the sun and going into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame Saturday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah. Yeah, kinda. Yeah, definitely.
Just say it. Listen, you got in first before Jovi because the schedule.
Hey, that's not the real kicker of me getting in. Jovi's not the one I'm
It's
kind
not also nothing to do with maybe you're driving more on those road trips to Iowa more than him.
But no, I was.
Did I break the fourth wall for a second?
Here's the thing. I wanted Sean to realize that he could have a fire in him that, that can really help him connect with people. And, I'll give it to the foundation. They have helped bring that fire out even more. And that's the thing that most people hear. Ooh, congratulations on that.
Well, we shattered that actually, but I've been kind of putting it out there. Really, I want to thank everybody. I know this is your moment, but I just want to thank everybody really these last couple of months. And I think Justin caught it because I do a radio show Wednesday nights, and I actually said, statistically, in the last, I think it's 2.5 months on Sportswire Radio, we've garnered about 120 new subscribers on YouTube alone. So thank you for being here and supporting Sportswire Radio and putting the word out there, because it's people that are out here tonight and telling their friends and telling everybody else why this is the place where all wrestling matters. That Sportswire Radio has certainly shattered the doors, and people know that the only place that covers, frankly, not just all wrestling, but all forms of sports is Sportswire Radio, because throughout my 5 years, I have covered high school athletics, college athletics, professional sports, and obviously all forms of wrestling. There is no other person I will bet all my life savings on, which is a lot, that has done that throughout these 5 years. I have given more people an opportunity, and I want to reciprocate to the people that continue to support this platform. So you can carry on. I just wanted to obviously thank the people here tonight.
But yeah, I wanted Sean to realize that fire, and the foundation, him being part of the foundation, is actually, I think, helping him a lot. Because here's the reality of wrestling: the whole face and heel thing does not matter anymore. You can try your best to make people love you or hate you. People are just
Justin Parsley's here. Listen, I would say Justin Parsley and XCW now. I mean, in a lot of ways, the fans love him now. The fans are just so devoted to him now. When he first came into XCW, kind of like you making a comeback, I think he was kind of in a way. I think the fans maybe were accustomed to the kind of the sheer like ability that he has that made him that good. But now they've come around, and I think it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, look at Omen Black. Look at Omen in your match. Omen Black, right? Supposed to be the boogeyman of the Midwest. He's supposed to be the hardcore god. But I would say almost like he's the Stone Cold Steve Austin of the IMF right now. The fans absolutely are just so behind him.
Yeah, it's the thing, and I've said this to people before, but yeah, you could do all the be a dick type things, and I even do them myself, but people are gonna cheer for whoever they want to.
That's it. Now listen, people make their choices. People, make their choices, and that's why you're in the Hall of Fame. I see a lot of people want to say hello, so let me say hello to people as we're certainly having a great time. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the 28th member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He is the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. He was just recently the RCW Underground Champion of the World. He was just in one of the premier matches at the IMF's most recent event, New Year's Venture. We're going to be talking about the next event here 2 weeks from Saturday. But let me say hello to the man that was just in the Hall of Fame, the number 27, who was inducted right before you. He is one of my favorites. By the way, this man stole the show at Versus the World Wrestling's most recent show. His name is the Bitcoin billionaire Chase Wakefield, Aaron Jones' best friend. This guy stole the show literally. I think he's on his way to being the next Chris Jericho. I want to say it out there. This guy literally stole the entire show, and he is awesome. And I said it when he was inducted Tuesday night. I inducted him into the Hall of Fame for not what he's done currently, but what he will do in the future. So how you doing there, Chase? Let me get to a ton of more comments because people want to say hello. It looks like the first comment was Skulls the Soul Hunter. Skulls is going to be back here next month, and we hope that Skulls is doing well. Skulls was hobnobbing with Paul London last weekend. Now he's back with us on Sports by Radio. Want to say hello to Jules NYC. Jules, how you doing out there? Hope that you are doing well for us in the beautiful confines of New York City, and hope that you are enjoying the beautiful evening as well as you might be. Obviously, Justin Parsley gives his congratulations. Obviously, you guys were maybe going to share a locker room, but things didn't work out at Winter Clash. But who knows what the future brings going forward. And I want to maybe talk about somebody that shares a locker room with him currently that you're going to share a locker room with in 2 weekends from now. Welcome to this Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Nicholas, and hi, Reverend. And by the way, Hall of Fame, I want to say real quick on the Sportswire Hall of Fame, it's really, we're becoming a big deal when on Monday night we're inducting somebody that played, let me repeat, in the college basketball NCAA Final Four. Let me repeat. One of our next members of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Dan Burns, actually played in the NCAA Final Four. He's in a Hall of Fame. So that tells you how big a deal that Sportswire's Hall of Fame. Get this. We've got Dean Allmark, only defeated Brian Danielson, Jushin Thunder Liger. We've got R.P. Davis in the entire country of Britain. Has been a boxing world champion, a wrestling world champion. The only individual in that country, Justin Parsley, the only person to be inducted in one day, 2 Hall of Fames, right? We then got Luke Leyland, the first ever person outside of any country in Africa to have fought in Dambe at the African Warriors Fighting Championship, over 100,000 plus followers that they have. That tells you how big of a deal the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame is. And I repeat, Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Dan Burns, the only player ever from the City University of New York in any sport to have played in the NCAA College Basketball Final Four. He's going to be in our Hall of Fame. That tells you that Sportswire Radio doing some pretty big things. I think so. Yep, evening to Adonis Felios, the Drip King. Have a feeling we're going to see him at some point here in a few weeks with some guy named Silverwolf, the big bad Silverwolf. Probably heard of him. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely rest in peace, Tim Mecca. I agree with you on that. Craven Rage was always around. I have a feeling we're going to see him before the IMF show, King of the Center, because he's going to be talking, I'm sure, with the number of those stars. So how you doing there, Craven? Tim Mecca forever. I absolutely agree on that. Hello, Tom Bryce, and a Hall of Famer, Nicholas Crenson. Yeah, I think that, he is a Hall of Famer, so good enough. Tim Mecca for the Hall of Fame. You know what? That's obviously something. Now, I would want to ask the Mecca family first. I would want to say, if the Mecca family thought that there would be a way that we could present that, and that there would be somebody from the family that would want to obviously allow us to talk about that, that might be something. If we could honor the family name, certainly I would always be open to that.
I would do. I can probably reach out myself.
Well, if that's something, I would certainly be very happy to, continue to extend an olive branch. We always extend olive branches. And if that's something the family thought that could honor his legacy, I would certainly be open to that. That's absolutely an excellent point. Skulls, what's gotten into your, Skulls?
Also, Ethan has a really good question that I see somewhere in the chat here.
I'm going to come to that. I just want to read off everybody because I want to make sure that the people, it's their show, and I want to say hello to them. Somebody else I could be speaking to real soon in the next few weeks, Trinity Parker, who's doing a phenomenal job as our ex-CW ring announcer. Good evening, Tom and Nicholas. Also, I know I missed the intro, but Nicholas has my deepest empathy and condolences. Absolutely Thank you for the very kind words, Trinity. I appreciate that. Congratulations, Nicholas. I believe this is one of your, I suppose, colleagues in Vector, Zero Days. Zero. Good to see you, my friend. I hope that you and yours are doing well. Hey, Jules. Yep. Jules, Trinity, good evening. Happy to see you. Yes. Hello. Yes, I see hello. People have to say hello. Good evening, Parsley. Good to see you, bro, in the chat. The Hoosier monarchy in the house. Absolutely. Listen, we love our Hoosiers. We love Indiana. We love Iowa. We love Wisconsin. I love everywhere on Sportswire because, as I'll continue to say, unlike the WWE Hall of Fame, we actually give things to our participants and our inductees. And also, we're a worldwide Hall of Fame. I've already rattled off countries like Britain. We're pretty much covered in most of the states in the U.S. And I know we're going to have Canada soon in the Hall of Fame. So, that's a great stuff. But let's come back to your question. What would be your favorite match from your career so far? Thank you, Ethan, for the great question.
That is a tough one. And like, because there's so many matches, like any of my matches with James, I've had so much fun with. When I first won the title from Damon Knight, that was a good one. My feuds with Eric Schwartz. But okay, so I'm gonna have to kind of do a two matches.
You can do 20 if you want.
Actually, you know what? I'll do 5. My 5 favorite matches in my career so far. I'm gonna give it to the IMF hardcore match that we just did.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it to me and Jason Myers from IMF back in August.
Oh yes. We talked about that match here in Sportswire. Correct.
And then number 3 and number 2 is actually gonna be 2 similar ones. The 2 out of 3 falls match with James Marshall and the Iron Man match with James.
We had you here, I want to say, right before the Iron Man match. In fact, we had the both of you guys here, if I recall correctly, last summer, right before that match. And that was the match where you were up 2-0. And we thought, okay, you're going to get this. And then he takes the lead. And then, you wound up losing it in the extra time. Yep, remember that very well.
And then finally, the match with Jovi where I beat him for the RCW World Underground Championship.
You got to put that in there. That was the first major singles championship in 17 years, nearly 17 years. One of the longest droughts of all sports, anywhere in wrestling. You had to have that one in there. That might even also be the match that puts you in the Hall of Fame because you got to win a singles championship. You got to have a major title, and you did that. You certainly accomplished it at the end of the day. And also that win, as I said, probably put Jovi in the Hall of Fame also. There's very few times when somebody wins and loses that both people actually get put into a Hall of Fame or get put into the spotlight. And that was one of those moments that I would say you both simultaneously winning and losing. Maybe the Iron Man, I would say actually, yes, the Iron Man match with yours was great, but I would make the comparison in a lot of ways. It was kind of like WrestleMania 13, Bret and Stone Cold, where sure, Bret won the match. Stone Cold bleeds, though. It's kind of like Jovi losing this match, and Jovi goes on to the run that he's had where right now, again, he's one of the biggest names in the sport, in the yard, really because of that match. And I would say that's why I put him in the Hall of Fame.
And another brilliant thing with that match, how did I beat Jovi? What did I do to beat him?
Yeah, well,
I had to literally...
You forced him basically where you literally beat him to a pulp. I mean, you forced him to where he had to finally, give up. That was it. He couldn't do anything.
The ref had to stop the match.
That's it. That was what it was. Very similar to WrestleMania 13. That's why I brought the match up, because in a lot of ways you threw, and I think I said this here, if I recall correctly, when you both came on. I said the only way you were going to win this match, or was something along these lines, was you're going to have to throw the kitchen sink at the resident rock star to take a championship that was his. He was synonymous with that championship, and that's what you wound up doing, and that's why I said it not only puts you in the Hall of Fame, but it put him in the Hall of Fame as well. I got a lot of comments here. I want to say hello to as many people as I can. Let's not forget how you and I, Crenson, crossed paths since day one. Yes, definitely. I'm sure. Well, I'm sure that that's something that we're going to bring up absolutely when he comes on and gets his crack in a couple of weeks with the Big Bad Silver Wolf and their WFEW promotion. Give those guys a plug out there. Well, they support Sportswire, so what do you want me to say at this point? You know, is everybody out there? A lot of people support Sportswire. I got to give everybody a chance. That's why I always say, you know, I would be a hypocrite.
I hope they do well.
I would be a hypocrite if I didn't give people a chance, and that's why I'm here. I always tell people, and one of the reasons I always tell people, why am I successful in life? Because I give everybody a chance, and I never forget the people that supported me. So we'll give them a chance, and we'll see how they do. That's all I could say. Congratulations on reaching 500. You deserve it. Hope to see 500 more. We're going to get to 500 more because I promise you I'll be on Sportswire so many times to get to the next 500 till my voice gives out. But my voice almost gave out in this introduction. Sportswire gaining and celebrating 500 subscribers. I do a radio show with a Jewish personality in Brooklyn, New York. His name's Heshi Tischler, and we read off like my statistics and his statistics, and my statistics blew his statistics out of the water. And basically, he's basically on like a worldwide radio station, like 3 of them. And meanwhile, Sportswire and yours truly has more fans than him these days. So that's why he made that point, because I've actually gained subscribers. He's lost subscribers because I think his platform's boring. And I think Sportswire, people want to see me here on Sportswire. But I don't think I'm going to be on Wednesday nights much longer. I really think that I'm going to be home at Sportswire full time because I think that platform is kind of not really going as well as Sportswire. So, but never say never. We'll see. But thank you for reminding us. Jules gave a laugh on that, and we'll see. Congratulations to Sportswire getting 500 subs in 5+ years doing these podcasts. Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. And I think Danny Burns on Monday, the man who played the NCAA Final Four going into our Hall of Fame, pretty much is the icing on the cake. Yep, but we'll have to see about that. That's up to Heshi Tischler. We'll certainly figure him out. You have absolute legends. We've had some great names. Jimmy Controversy was here last week, by the way. Jimmy freaking Controversy. That was a big one. Having Jimmy. Can never forget about Jimmy. Congratulations, Mr. Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah. You deserve this, and hopefully this will boost to achieve your next chapter. We'll be talking about that soon. We'll certainly give some time. Our guys joining you in the Hall of Fame Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, Matthew Forsaken and Darkline. I guess you could say maybe they're colleagues of yours in the IMF. Evening, gentlemen, and big congratulations to you, Mr. Crenson. I got a great question from Trinity because I love XCW, and I want to give XCW a big shout-out. Please follow XCW. XCW Shelbyville on YouTube. Encounters just took place. Some great matches as always. XC Wrestling 1 on Twitter. Also check them out on Facebook. XCW All Access. Some great content. Please support them. But here's my question. What is the one match type that you'll do, but you know will be absolute hell?
Oh, God. Match type that is absolute hell that I would do. God, there's a few of them. Like, I thought, like, originally thought deathmatch hardcore would be hell. But honestly, it's some of the funnest stuff I've done. And she said action match. I mean, any hardcore stipulation type match can be hell, especially if you go crazy with it. And I like to kind of go crazy when I do big matches.
Listen, Omen's gaining a big name out there in the scene. I mean, listen, Controversy knows who he is now. Mikey Anarchy knows who he is now. Hardcore knows who he is now. I mean, we're talking about like the big superstars who are known hardcore deathmatch stars. They know Omen Black, and you were toe-to-toe with him. So, got to give you that much.
Oh, okay. Actually, I can kind of give you a match type that I love, but is one of the riskiest ones, and it's not for the reason you think.
Tell us.
Anything with a ladder.
I knew you were going to say that because I was listening to a podcast somewhere, and I'm trying to remember who it was, and they said ladder match was the more difficult of matches. I'm trying to forget who it was. Maybe it was Bully Ray. It was somebody that recently said they asked what type of match is the most or more difficult one to do. It's a ladder match.
Yes, and it's not because, for me, it's not because of like, oh, diving off the ladder and stuff like that. It's literally, for me, one of my greatest injuries was in a ladder match, and it was basically like Joey Mercury, except it wasn't my nose that exploded, it was the top of my skull.
Mm.
And like just little ladders, like you want to see hard way bleeding and wrestling, just put a bunch of people together with ladders, give them a bunch of ladders and let them just throw it at each other. Somebody's gonna bleed.
Good enough. I'm not going to argue about that at all. I think also, I think Trinity basically had the same question. She can check me on that if she wants to in a few minutes. Since you're honoring Tim Mecca, could you have a custom championship with the letters "Rest in Peace"? How about
Probably.
well? I'll tell you what. Let's do a Hall of Fame first. Let's
Yeah.
let's do the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame first.
Yeah, there's some stuff that we want to that I kind of like to do for Tim, and yeah, well,
Hey,
the Hall of Fame, like
I think the Hall of Fame would be a nice
works.
start. Let's obviously see if the family would like to accept the possibility of that, to obviously talk about his name. Then we can talk about. There's always an old adage in life. It's kind of like one step at a time, almost like let's cross that bridge when we get there. That's kind of how I would say about that. But Ethan, you've had some great questions tonight. But let's work on one step at a time first. Let's
Yeah.
one step at a time.
One step at a time, bud.
Okay. I got a bunch of questions. People actually want to ask you questions specifically. Usually, when I do these, people like, okay, let's go to current events, but let's keep them coming. All right, fine.
Right?
You know what?
Do
And I
do
still
it.
want to give you something. I actually have something for you, but
Dude, we're gonna
Right.
be here all night, and I don't care.
you know what, people? You know what? Why I always tell the story. The owner of TBW, Josh Allen, had actually said, I think a month ago, when can you do an all-night show? I'm like, do you want my voice to blow? Does somebody want me to die on air? It's kind of like, I think I used the analogy in Chase Wakefield show, almost like if you remember the Jerry Lee Lewis telethons when
Oh
he do
God, yes.
MDA. I feel like that somebody wants me to do like a Jerry Lewis, just be on air for like 20 hours, 24 hours, and just go
die.
Exactly. That's what it's. I think people want me to do that, but I mean, you know, if you think that it can work, I don't think it can. But obviously, people like to certainly enjoy pleasure in many ways. Let's go to Craven Rage, the one-time WCE All-Out Champion of the world, and what's the next chapter for the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson?
Well, I liked holding that RCW title for the time that I had it, and after this weekend, going through the stuff that I had for the couple weekends back when we did the IMF show. What's next? Well, that red championship that Kodak holds kind of looks very tasty right now.
And maybe you catch him at a time where he went through some punishment there in that triple threat hardcore match.
I'm going to make a bold prediction here.
Spoiler, is it a spoiler alert time?
It could be a spoiler, but this year is my 20th year doing wrestling in some way, on and off. And by the end of this year, I will be all out champion. But not just that.
Yeah.
I'm going to win more than just one championship this year. And I'm going to win 2 different titles this year. I'm going for the all out, and I'm going for the interstate. I'm going to win.
Well, you know what? Nicholas Crenson, I don't know what's gotten into you, but you mean to tell me, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, that you were targeting not one, but 2 championships? Is that what you're telling me? 2 championships?
Well, it'd be dumb not to, wouldn't it? Why limit yourself to just one title?
Or wouldn't I want to win one and start with one and then work my way up the rest?
Some might, but really, I just want to be a champion, and I want to do it right this time. And honestly, I've done it right my whole career. So I'm going to be WCE All Out Champion by the end of the year. I'm going to be WCE Interstate Champion by the end of the year. Hell, I might throw some other belts over my head and over my shoulders. Because there's a lot of places that have like really amazing wrestlers out there, like a good guy, like a popular monster, like a CT.
A CT. A C.
XCW, ROEW, IMF.
A CT. I know who that CT is, by the way. Who's the champion in that company? Oh, I heard of him. Yeah, I think I know exactly who that CT is. Yep, I know him, and certainly he did pretty well on those CTs. Yeah, I know who he is. And you know what? We have XCW personnel here on Sportswire. I'm sure that they'll certainly relay the message to the man that's also in the Hall of Fame alongside you, Mr. Fletcher. I'm sure that they'll certainly let him know that you might certainly be interested in a possibility of going to Shelbyville because, the Midwest, right? I mean, Wisconsin and Indiana, certainly natural, basically competition, natural, certainly allies in many different ways, certainly natural partners, natural, whatever you want to say. So I could certainly see where you're going with that. I got a lot more comments here. Let me try to say hello to everybody. First of all, I want to say hello to everybody. Ron Franklin. Ron, sorry about the Packers. Obviously, we're all sorry for Wisconsin fans here. Obviously, people were rooting for them against the 49ers, but a very good season. Yeah, I don't think anybody was really excited about the 49ers being in the Super Bowl this year, unless you're from California, I suppose. But we don't really have too many California companies out there. Maybe Skulls. Although Skulls doesn't strike me as a 49ers fan, but anyways, though, Ron, nice to be with you. But, Trinity's got an awesome question. It kind of reminds me of some of the stuff they're doing at XCW right now. Like, they're asking, what's your favorite food and, what type of personality you have and different things like that. So I really want to bring this up because it's a really clever question. And what's on your playlist to get you ready for matches? That's actually a really cool question.
Oh, God, there's so much. Because if I'm not listening to music, I'm usually listening to podcasts. Lately, my go-to podcast is a podcast called History of Everything.
Okay.
Just because of some of the weird stuff they talk
I
about.
just listened to My World with Jeff Jarrett talking about the Endeavor deal. I just listened to that.
That and there's that. For music though, it's bands like Tool, Two Door Cinema Club, Fall Out Boy, Green Day, Maximum
Green Day's
the
got a big tour
Hormone.
this year. Green Day's doing all the stadiums.
Yep, Maximum the Hormone. Oldies like the Animals, the Beatles, the Hollies, Dire Straits. I've been like
Money for Nothing. Money for Nothing.
That is God.
That's
That is such a good song.
That was the MTV. That was the first big MTV video. That's what you get. Then it was the VH1. It was, I think, VH1. It became the biggest VH1 video. First, it was the biggest MTV video. Then it became the biggest VH1 video. So yeah, that's a legendary one. Mark Knopfler, who I think he wound up doing songs for the Rugrats or somebody. He wound up doing TV films, if I'm not mistaken, or TV music.
Actually, another band you kind of mentioned Rugrats, but another band I can think of, or two that have done stuff for TV shows. The B-52s.
Yes.
Who
actually they're doing their final tour, right? I think I heard somewhere it was somewhere. It might be they're doing one more tour. It's a Vegas residency stint, I think, if I read it correctly.
Because they actually did the theme song for Rocko's Modern Life.
Yes, that I remember.
And anybody else who
Modern Life.
yeah. And then another band that did like a bunch of themes is They Might Be Giants.
Okay. Like that's a good one.
Istanbul, not Constantinople is one of my favorite songs. Same with the theme from Malcolm in the Middle.
And Malcolm in the Middle famously had a Bret Hart moment where he put somebody that we can't say that person's name on the air and a sharpshooter. Now, we're not going to say that person's name, but let's just say that we're going to basically VKM that person.
But anyway, but yeah, like I have a weird collective collection of music that I listen to. Like I listen to stuff from Japan. I listen to like metal. I listen to pop. I listen to punk. I'm not really a guilty pleasure of mine, but one of my favorite songs to throw on before I get ready for wrestling is Roses by the band Outkast.
Okay, yeah, I know that song. Sure.
Yep. And then God damn it. You mentioned Jovi, but I gotta mention this. Jovi has probably one of the best theme songs in all of wrestling.
Oh my god! Everybody loves Jovi's one.
Yeah, he picks
You
good themes.
got my fire. I almost think that he should come out to that on Saturday when he gets inducted.
Like it's Jovi just picks good songs to come out to. Like he came out to a metal cover of "I Need a Hero"
Yeah, no,
at
Jovi.
Res,
Yeah,
and then but yeah, like I have a whole collection of bands and songs, and like pretty much a lot of songs I listen to, I half of the time when I'm listening to them, I'm like, huh, this would be a cool entrance or a cool song to use to like a build up video for a match or a theme for a show. Like I really like listening to music.
I think music sets the tone, it sets the tempo, and sets the pace. And I have a
I've I do see a comment here that I
I
might
got a
try to
lot of
respond to.
them. Yep. What do you want? Which one you want me to call?
Trinity. Actually, I have heard of the Buzzcocks. I swear I've heard of it somewhere. I haven't listened to them yet, but I have heard of it.
Now, for our
I think my
female
buddy.
listeners, Jules out there, anybody else, don't get the. It's not what you think. That's I would. It's not what you think. Because we're a family station, but it's actually not what you think when it comes to the band. Yep. But go ahead. You want to say something else on that? Because I want to actually make an announcement on behalf of Trinity once you do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, the Buzzcocks, one of my buddies that I've been friends with since high school that lives out in Oregon. I think he's mentioned the Buzzcocks a few times because he's huge into punk rock.
Absolutely, punk to me has always been an influence in so many other ways. But I want to come back to more comments, and also I actually want to give you something on the air, so I want to do that soon. But actually, I want to make a big announcement because Trinity has a birthday coming up on February the 25th, and on her birthday, we're going to induct her into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame because she's going to also be our first female ring announcer, and if I'm not mistaken, also our first female into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So congratulations. We certainly make some history there. So we get to see some history. You heard it here first. For those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, we make history. We kill two birds with one stone, as they always say. That Trinity Parker will go into the Hall of Fame as our first female in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, and also our first female ring announcer, and on her birthday. So really, it's like 3 for the price of 1. It's not even 2 for the price of 1. It's 3 for the price of 1 here on Sportswire Radio. So you're going to get Trinity to be in our Hall of Fame, and you're going to get a chance here to basically see history. So you got to tune into that one because that'll be one for the ages. That'll be on the evening of the 25th, which I believe will be sometime Sunday night. So stay tuned. Whatever time Trinity wants, just don't make it at like 9 o'clock in the morning. But, definitely congratulations, Trinity. And you earned it. And that's what we do here on Sportswire. I wanted to make some history. But, okay, let's come back. I got a lot of comments. I'm going to try to get to as many people. But, yes, and follow XCW on all of their platforms. One day, it'd be great for you to go on this podcast, Ace Reed of the Wired Up podcast. He just had on Jack Delta. He just had on Jackson Law, and his company is closing in on 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's a double champion. So definitely well-spoken. Might be a fun interview one day to consider him. Follow him on BWDU Wrestling. Make sure you follow him. He's closing in on 1,000 subscribers as a Patreon page up here. Also, hey, Crenson, how about an all-out hell match from our buddies in DKW? And he says May. In May.
That sounds tempting.
You think I could ask him that question Tuesday, conversely? He's going to be here to be inducted. Going to join you in the Hall of Fame, Doc Ryan and Matthew Forsaken.
That would be interesting. I'm considering it. I've got a lot of interesting match proposals that have happened to me. This one, and then I had another interesting. Somebody messaged me about doing a match, and I'm just like, I'm considering it. But I'm also like, there are some wrestlers here in IMF, in XCW, in ROEW, and in even DKW that you could have the death matches, and I love doing death matches, but there's some of them that I can see being some of the best technical wrestlers I've seen in a long time.
Well, you talked ROEW technical. You obviously bring up the good guy CJ Black. You got to throw in C Money right now. Jacob Collins, was unbeatable in XCW, has not lost a match in XCW. Have to throw him in there. XCW, certainly Corey Lee's at the list. You certainly mentioned that guy with the CT. I think I know who that guy is. Hunter Halkin. Also, another guy apparently may not be technical, but you're going to be sharing a locker room with him, I hear, through a grapevine. Tommy the Man Merriman. Interesting guy. Speaking of other guys who are hardcore, James Cerebral. Oh, he's their hardcore champion. I mean, you got Eric Mason. I mean, he's a big man. We saw him and Jack Delta's tangle, and he had a match. I mean, there's always Chris Jones out there. Speaking of hardcore and a man that's synonymous with ladder matches. I mean, you can go on and on and on in the XCW roster. Brogan O'Shea, you and Brogan, there's a lot of similarities there.
Oh God, you bring him up. Here's the thing: out of everyone in XCW that I've seen and I've watched and I want to face, the one name that is at the top of that list is Brogan O'Shea.
Oh, Brogan, Brogan, what he does in the ring, and he originally retired Chris Jones, originally did. But Brogan, I mean, you and him, I see in ring style a lot of similarities, and certainly personalities differ certainly a little bit. But if you were to go down to Shelbyville, I think at the top of the list, the EBW World Champion Brogan O'Shea would have to be. There's also Brady Branson, the man who won the most awards at Viewer's Choice. He's up there. Justin Parsley, Hall of Famer versus Hall of Famer. Can't forget about that. Ewan Parsley, the first real wrestler and the new Messiah. I mean, that's another match that certainly sells some tickets. It'll certainly get some social media buzz. I mean, I can't forget about that. The Essential One, Rob Slater, his tag team partner. I mean, there's a lot of places we can go. Miano Diaz. I mean, Fletch himself, Ewan Fletch. I mean, there's a lot of ways I could go in XCW if you were to go there. Just saying.
Yes. There's so many ways to go with that, with going to like an XCW or an REW or a DKW.
Yes. Joe Stone, you and Joe Stone in DKW. If no one talks
Joe Stone would be interesting. Dark Crowd, Matthew Forsaken, those all would be interesting matches. And I'm gonna throw it out here. I've faced Jason Myers once, actually 2 times. I've faced him in a 3-way with Kodak, and we had that draw on that last man. I wanna settle things with him. I want to wrestle not just Jason Myers. I want to wrestle Jordan Netz. I want to wrestle Felix Jones. I want to wrestle Freddie Daniels. I want to wrestle some of the best technical wrestlers I've seen so far.
That's a good one. You mentioned Jason Myers, unfinished business there. Jordan Netz, who was the world champion this summer. I mean, some really, really good names that you brought up. That's why I want people.
Hell, I'm going to throw this out here. I want a one-on-one match at some point with Soldier GP. and we don't have to, don't care about the hardcore stuff. I just want to see us beat the living shit out of each other with our bare hands.
Well, we'll see if you have better luck than Craven Rage would. We'll certainly see if that'll be the case. But I got a lot of comments here. While we get to those comments, I want people to follow the IMF on all their links above. And I actually have a poster in a little while to play on behalf of the IMF. And also I want people to subscribe if you haven't yet to Sportswire Radio. We also have a 24-hour internet radio station at sportswireradio.org. If you have a podcast, if you'd like to be a DJ, if you'd like to make any suggestions, you can let us know. You can message me through any other way you want. We also have a brand new blog, Tumblr at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Reminder, sportswireradio.org is our internet radio station. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryson. I'm going to read off those comments. Donna show like Lawrence Welk, weird orchestra music and a bubble machine in the back. Just need a conductor stick. There's a lot of people that want me to do a lot of things. I agree with you, Nicholas Crenson has the potential to win 2 championships and have an amazing title run. He's got to get there, but you know what? Maybe why not? Listen, why not? Why not? Maybe Kron's looking at the interstate title too, and I'll go right through you. I'm going to talk about that on Tuesday. I promise you on that. I think Jules didn't like the Buzzcocks comment, but what can I tell you? I mean, I just want to tell it like it is. I was actually, it's not what people think. That's all. I'll come back to the good questions on that. Put a bird on it. That's a funny question here. There we go. Yep, I think that's what he wanted to say here. Okay, so you know what? I want to hold off on these questions. I got more questions, but Nicholas Crenson, I have been kind of teasing it here for the past 25 minutes. I know that the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, you might be wondering, well, how is it official? And how is this Hall of Fame official? Well, unlike that Hall of Fame that used to be in Stamford, Connecticut, we actually give those who are in our Hall of Fame something that physically shows that they're in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. In addition to your photo is actually right now on our website. So if you want to check out Nicholas Crenson in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, you can actually do that right now on sportswireradio.org. But Nicholas Crenson, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, fans of yours, fans of all wrestling that is out there, and XCW, IMF, WC, whatever you float your boat, would you like me to present you something on the air that might actually showcase that you're officially a Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer? Would I have your blessing that I could show something on the screen here that you haven't seen yet?
Go ahead, Reverend.
Well, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, I'm so glad that you asked, because it looks like right there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We are an official Hall of Fame, and that's what we do for all our inductees. And Nicholas Crenson, it's in full writing. You have my John Hancock. You have the date. You also have my official title, your number in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, along with your name, our logo, and a certificate of appreciation. And congratulations, you actually have something physical that shows you are in our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame.
Oh, thank you so much, Tom. Actually, like I said earlier, this is something I didn't really think would happen at all when I came back to wrestling. So it really does make me feel justified in the decision to do this.
Well, you know what? I think a lot of people, I didn't think I was going to have a Hall of Fame either up until about 3 months ago. And people were like, I actually had people message me off the air, and I won't say the names. Like, you've been doing this a long time. I've seen you go through the days on Skype calls, SoundCloud.com. You were on a British radio station, was turned into yours, and you've done all these different things. And you think about all the people that have come on Sportswire Radio. It's about, I would say, somewhere between like 700 and 1,000 personalities of all the backgrounds that we've covered: high school athletics, college sports, university sports, certainly professional sports, obviously all in wrestling. And we were like, maybe you should have a Hall of Fame. And I was like, well, all right. And that's kind of why we're here. So really, the fact is the people wanted a Hall of Fame, and you're getting a Hall of Fame. And like I said, you're a huge part of it. You've certainly, when I think about the 5 years of Sportsfire Radio, WC has played a huge role in our success. We're obviously working with the company for a year and a half. And I think that you've been one of the more memorable guests. And I think your background speaks for itself. And I think that that's why we have a Hall of Fame. And by the time it's all said and done, we'll probably have like 100, 200, 300 names in the Hall of Fame. I just had that many people on the platform. It's really, but that's why we wanted to officially put you in the Hall of Fame. But I want to get to some more comments because people still want to ask you questions. I want to talk about current events, but I want to get to some other things here. So what's your favorite restaurant and what would you order? That's actually, you know what? I never thought about asking that because I usually don't have time to ask you those kind of questions. But I'm going to let him ask you that question because I clearly shouldn't do this.
So I actually have 3 different restaurants, but my favorite one that I really like closed down. So I do a different restaurant now. We have a Chinese restaurant called King. Was it King? It's either King Walk or China Walk, but I usually order from there. I order like either sesame or orange chicken or General Tso's. I order the fried dumplings, and then I order some crab rangoon. And then other like restaurants that I really enjoy. We have a really good burger place here in Wisconsin in the Fox Valley. It's called Tom's. They make the best French fries I've ever had, and really good combos too. And then another really good restaurant that I enjoy is Popeyes.
Popeyes. I was like, I would have thought you would have said Cracker Barrel or something like that, but you say
I've never been
Popeye.
to a Cracker Barrel. We don't have those.
Well, it's funny. Chase Wakefield, who got into our Hall of Fame and was inducted on Tuesday, I think it was the first time we had Chase. And one of the guys in DBW, which we do a lot of work with, Brandon Costelli, was, they were talking about Cracker Barrel. And I was like, so do you go to Cracker Barrel a lot? We were talking about, I would have thought Wisconsin had Cracker Barrel because it's in New York. I don't think we have a Cracker Barrel in New York City. Somebody can quote me on this, but I've never been to a Cracker Barrel, and it seems to be a popular destination, kind of like IHOP almost.
Really, it's kind of like for us, it's another one that we don't really we have, but it's not nearby for me. White Castle.
I don't. I have a White Castle story. I could maybe share it on the air. I mean, it is near the witching hour. I suppose I could share it on the air. I did a number 2 in a White Castle once. That's all I can say.
Oh God.
I was like, actually, I did a number 2 in a White Castle once.
But
that's the only time I had White Castle. So I'm just not a White Castle fan.
Yeah, and I've had the White
Castle.
Although
Harold and Kumar lived off White Castle, but that's a different story.
I've only ever had the stuff you can get at the stores.
Yeah.
It's the same with Cracker Barrel. Like a lot of for us, what we know of Cracker Barrel here is you can buy the cheese, you can buy macaroni and cheese in the stores for it.
Yeah.
Another really good restaurant though, a burger joint that's probably I would think you guys have one around there. Five Guys.
Yeah, I've had Five Guys. I mean, that's I've been to Five Guys. They had one on in Brooklyn on 86th Street, actually, which is 86th Street is legendary. It was in the movie Saturday Night Fever, the John Travolta movie. That was 86th Street was kind of the legendary destination. Yeah, Five Guys that's a common thing in New York City, and in Brooklyn and in Staten Island they have those. Yeah, Five Guys is pretty good. They have good fries. Five Guys is. I haven't had Five Guys in ages, but yeah, I've been there. That's been there, done that.
But the real thing for me is Chinese food. Chinese restaurants are always my if I can get some Chinese food, I'm like, yes.
All right. Well, that's a good question, Ethan. We have questions about music. We have questions about food. So we've gotten to know a little bit of Nicholas Crenson, and we've known him for a year and a half. I would never have thought of ask these things. Okay, let me get some more questions here. A lot of them here. Jules likes Popeyes. Okay. Yes. I mean, I can't say I'm a Popeyes fan. Cracker Barrel is excellent for road trippers. Yeah, I mean, in wrestling, Cracker Barrel is a big deal because when you're traveling on the road, you're mostly out, let's say, late at night on the road. I think he was famous. Lance Storm used to live off Cracker Barrel. He years ago, he did a podcast when he was wrestling, in ECW and WCW, and he was almost a devout Cracker Barrel person, which was, again, because a lot of wrestlers, when you end the show, you're 11, 12 o'clock at night and you're going to your hotel, and the only thing that might be open is Cracker Barrel, and Cracker Barrel gives, really quality food for, where you can find versus anywhere else. So that's a good point. Yep.
You mentioned Lance Storm. Anybody who actually wants to learn more about wrestling or understand wrestling or just wants to improve their knowledge of wrestling, listen to any Lance Storm interview. Listen to anything where he talks about wrestling.
Yep. Absolutely. Lance Storm was always one of my favorites, and always certainly, was one of the guys that if you're a fan of wrestling, go check him out. Okay, appreciate that. I will come back to a few more questions on you before I get to current events. Popeyes is good, but you got to go to a good one. Yeah, I mean, Popeyes, I'm not a Popeyes KFC person, so I kind of equate them the same. Cracker Barrel and White Castle is okay, but it's more like I want to gorge and not eat for a day. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. That's why I'm inducting you in my Hall of Fame, because I kind of pretty much agree with that. I mean, I've never had Cracker Barrel, but that's how I feel about White Castle. So that's a pretty good point there. That's Trinity is going to be our first female in our Hall of Fame. I meant that all Cracker Barrels across the country happily welcome overnight campers and others sleeping in their cars. There are many Cracker Barrel parking lots that have a slew of campers and RVs. Okay, I didn't know that, but that's good to know. Okay, I'll come back to Craven Rage, but I did have a few other things that people wanted to ask you. I think you've asked this before, but Ethan has a lot of questions. I'll let him come ask it to you. Would you have a dream match?
A dream match? Huh. God, it's kind of...
It could be anything. You can answer it in the local companies and the major companies. You can answer it any way you want.
Jeez, there's a lot of people out there that I'd love to face.
I'm surprised you haven't said Jack Delta yet.
Oh, he's on the list. He's
I'm
definitely on the
just saying it
list.
though. I wouldn't know.
Like I would like to work with Jack Delta, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily the dream match I'd like to do, because there's a whole bunch of people out there that I think would be an interesting match. Somebody who I actually got to meet on air when
Oh.
I first won the RCW World Underground Championship.
All right, let me think about this here. Would it be our coach, Chris Craven?
Oh God, no.
Okay. You first. Oh, James Taylor, the Nemesis.
The Nemesis James Taylor.
Who's,
I
by
would
the way,
actually
getting inducted right after the Super Bowl. Cheap plug. Right after the Super Bowl, right after the game is over, James Taylor is going into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So that's a good one, James Taylor, because he just came up with Cameron Cage from Resurrection Wrestling. Yeah, James Taylor, it's a good one. And he's a free agent, by the way. He's not with any company. Although, if you believe what some people say, or if you don't believe what some people say, that's one thing, but he is a free agent.
like I would actually like to share the ring with James Taylor. Um Another dream match I could think of. We've been on opposite sides, but I think what would be a cool match would be me, James Marshall, and actually me and James Marshall against some me and James Marshall against the Awakening.
All right. That's a good one. Okay, that was a good one. That was a good answer. So I give you that much. Okay, so let's come back to some other things. I don't know much about Portlandia, so I'll move on from that. Okay, Craven Rage, Mr. Crenson, you truly deserve this honor, and you are definitely a hard fighter. But honestly, with all due respect, I can tell you this: there's someone who definitely will cross your path. You know what? Let's talk about for the remainder part of the show. This is a good segue for a couple of different reasons because Nicholas Crenson, I'm going to have a poster I'm going to display here in a few minutes, but you're actually, I'm sure, going to want to talk about a couple things. Speaking about people that you have crossed paths with, most recently, you were in the ring with some guy that for over a year, you were basically, quote unquote, raging fire with. Dark fire, you may say. And you finally squared off once again in that rematch for your RCW World Underground Championship that you lost. But while you came up short, I was more surprised about what happened after the match, where you almost, in a way, gave it to Darkfire, showed you respect him, and it seems like now bygones be bygones. I mean, is the feud that was raging fire for more than 16 months is finally put to bed? I mean, can you talk about that for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio?
That match was over a year, like more than a year in the making.
That's 16 months. But think about it, if it was the end of the last season in 22, and you ended it obviously with what you brutally did to him, all the things you said about him and his background, and the feud was never really settled up until what we saw this past week. I think it was on Monday, and we were talking about really 15, 16 months of this.
And here's the thing. Yes, I shook his hand because he earned my respect. Like this whole thing with Darkfire was trying to push him to pull the trigger when he needs to. And that was his problem. The one thing that was holding him back. He couldn't pull the trigger. Look at Liards Collide. Look at him and James when they were the final two for the Interstate. Look at Fight or Fright 2.
I remember it. I remember it.
This is this is what I do. I target people because sometimes I see people don't.
You said that at the beginning of the season last year that you had a list of people and there were different names you wanted to go through. So, okay, I remember it.
I brought out the best in Sean Jovi. That's getting amplified by the foundation right now. I had to bring out the absolute best in Darkfire, and he took a beating from me. Steel chairs.
He kept getting up though. He kept coming for more.
It's not just that. You remember? Okay, so me and Darkfire, we do that little, the stereotypical sit on the chair and slap each other.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm going to say this. He has hit me harder than anybody has ever hit me before.
And you've been hit by Omen more than on one occasion.
I've been hit by Omen. I've been hit by JDT.
How
I've
about
been hit-
Jovi? How about what you and Jovi did back and forth in the RCW Underground match? Yeah, you could mention that guy that's no longer in the company. Yeah, you could mention him.
But yeah, here's the thing. Jovi hit me pretty hard. Darkfire almost knocked me out on that second slap.
You think that maybe it was all that pent up animosity of about 16 months that he was like, you know what? I'm going to let it all out toward you because he couldn't
Oh,
take it
I
anymore.
made sure he did. I made sure to give him every motive to hit me as hard as he could. And that's what he needed. He needed to actually embrace the fact that this is a sport where people can get hurt. So you better be willing to hit as hard as you can to keep a title.
Do you think that? Let me ask you this question. Now, certainly, I want to say hello to Jamestown. We're going to say hello to Jamestown in a minute, but let me ask you a question. And I don't know how if I'm poking the bear or not, but Darkfire was kind of seen by a lot of people as like this joke, almost like this funny guy that I don't want to say it was like weird, but if you were watching these shows on Sportswire, came across kind of quirky, came across like awkward almost in a way. Sure, had a good look, good talent, can certainly go in the ring. He got a good look in the ring. He's certainly a guy you could see that's, a top guy, but I don't know if anybody would take him seriously. But maybe after that match, Nicholas Crenson, maybe after what you put him through, and he was able to finally settle a score of more than 15 months in the making, maybe that's the moment that we say, you know what? I don't know, in a year from now, when maybe he goes into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, that's his match that solidifies him. You think that's a fair statement that I just made?
Possibly. Like he's got a lot on his plate coming up soon. I know, especially seeing who he's got to face next. But also here's the thing: is like he just. I wanted to make sure Darkfire wasn't afraid of hurting anybody, because this is what this sport is. We're gonna get hurt.
That's it. There's at the end of the day, there's no loyalty. There's no loyalty. There's no loyalty, Nicholas Crenson. There's no loyalty.
Oh no, there's no loyalty. We're all gonna try to do our best to win, but also you gotta understand that if we don't help each other out and build this business up more and more, there isn't gonna be a wrestling business.
Fair play, fair play. I agree. I think the nook of the cranny is basically that Darkfire might have solidified himself now as another top player due to you pushing him to a direction he had no other place to go to. Speaking of people, yep, go ahead, jump in.
And see, that's the thing. That's what I do is I push people beyond their limits. I make them remember to live, because that's what wrestling is. It's feeling alive, and you can't feel alive unless you're beating the living hell out of each other.
That's why they call it the sport of wrestling, and all wrestling matters. Okay, let me get to somebody though that you mentioned him about 10 minutes ago, about 10, maybe
Yeah.
a little more than 10 minutes ago. And he's obviously going into the Hall of Fame. I think this is the best way to put somebody in the Hall of Fame right after the Super Bowl, right after the clock goes zero, right after we get either the Chiefs or the 49ers. I'm surprised somebody's not asked you that question yet. Maybe we should ask you that question at the end of the show. But the nemesis James Taylor goes into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame right after the big game, right after the clock hits zero. And he's got a couple things here. First of all, he says, well, hello, everyone. He also says, congratulations, Crenson.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
DKW, obviously, Darkron and Mr. Taylor have the history one another. Obviously, Darkron's been on the Nemesis sessions, and also, who are these men after me? So, I'm not a hard man to find, and I'm open to any type of match you'd want. So now that Mr. Taylor is here, he is still a free agent. I know everybody says, he won't show up this place, he will show up that place, but he's a free agent. And he's obviously going to pick the right choosing of where he would want to return to the ring. But you've obviously have him on your list of people that you dream to wrestle. And what do you want to say to him now that he's here?
Mr. Taylor, sometime during 2024, if I have to find a way to you or you can find a way to me, I want to face you one-on-one.
So you want to face
That's
him?
the challenge right now.
Now,
I'm throwing that out there.
Now, can I ask you a follow-up to that? Now, obviously, there's this thing called Summer Bash, and if I'm not mistaken, it's in somewhere in the state of Ohio right now. I don't know the logistics. I don't know if you're planning to be there, and I don't know if Mr. Taylor is planning to be there. But is that a neutral site environment? Almost like, the Super Bowl this year is quote unquote in a neutral site environment, right? And obviously we would have Summer Bash, right? It's in a neutral site environment. It's really where IMF and DKW are sort of hosting it, but it's still a neutral site environment. And do you think in this neutral site environment that you and James Taylor would be an interesting match?
Yeah, that would be an interesting match. It doesn't. All that matters to me is getting this match with Mr. Taylor. It can be a neutral site environment like Ohio, like IMF, or it could be at in like someplace like Tennessee or Alabama or Indiana.
Well, in Alabama, there's a company out there, but I don't think that they would want to showcase that match. I mean, they're coming on Sunday. They're called the Alliance Wrestling League, and I don't think that would be there. Now, Tennessee, there's obviously history there, but Mr. Taylor's a free agent, so that wouldn't work. Now, there's obviously also the state of Indiana. That could certainly be a possibility. I would obviously not count them out. Or maybe even your home fed. Your home fed in Wisconsin.
There are so many possibilities. All I'm saying is...
Or even Michigan. You mentioned Michigan earlier, and I think that Michigan's a place that Mr. Taylor has good relationships with, and you have seemingly good relationships with those in Michigan. It seems you have no ill will toward them. They have nothing negative said to you. So, I mean, that could be a fair environment for the two of you.
But honestly, all I'm saying is I want to share the ring with you, Mr. Taylor, just because I think we could create something golden.
Now, let me ask you a question. And I realize that we're coming toward the end of the show, but if I were to bring, if you wanted, I don't want to do anything, it's just your moment, it's a special show. If you thought only if it was a good idea that Mr. Taylor would like to say hello and talk about that match. If you don't think it's a good idea, obviously he's going to get his moment next Sunday right after the big game. But if you think it's only good for you that Mr. Taylor would come on here and just, obviously talk about this potential dream match. Again, I don't know if this would be a Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer versus Hall of Fame match. Maybe the winner becomes a more bigger Hall of Famer in the history. I don't know if that's something that we should talk about. But, if it's something you think that would certainly be up to the fan, if the fans want it, if the guys in the back of the companies they work for want it, if you want it only, I would give Mr. Taylor a few minutes before maybe we address one more thing, which I want to really spend a few more minutes on, is the IMF's upcoming show, which is why I want to promote that. But if you thought it was a good idea that Mr. Taylor would come on for a few minutes and address this potential match and maybe, say
so let's wait on that.
Okay. Good idea.
Just because
okay.
I think me and Mr. Taylor can talk about this a little bit more in depth in the future on here.
Okay, so you know what? We'll do that at another date. And I want to remind people, which is good enough. Thank you for that. I appreciate that upfrontness. And certainly that's also a great tease that one more time, right after the big game is over and you're bored, you're thinking, all right, well, what's to do now? There's no more football anymore. There's no other sports on. Well, just come on to Sportswire Radio because I am going to be live and I'm going to induct James Taylor in the Hall of Fame. And if you want to give him his comments, you want to give him his questions, or anything else you gave Nicholas Crenson tonight, that's your segue to go out and do that here on our Sports by Radio YouTube page. And I want to repeat one more time before I play a poster for you that I want to show up. We just reached over 500 subscribers. So thank you so much to everybody that's out there that's tuned in. And also, please follow our friends at the IMF on the links below. And also, I want to remind people, Saturday night, the man that you helped induct into the Sports by Radio Hall of Fame, technically the resident rock star Sean Jovi, is in your chair, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Central Time, the final member of our third class in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So, I want to talk about it here. Obviously, in the allotted time that we have a big show coming up February the 17th. I would be sure that maybe you'd like to talk about it, maybe your hopes after you certainly fell short at winning that hardcore championship against Omen Black. You saw what happened with you in Darkfire, but maybe you have a chance, you would hope, to redeem yourself here. King of the Center. It's the IMF's 8-man singles tournament to crown the inaugural King of the Center. It's going to start at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. Matches start 6 o'clock. And get this, only $10. I just went out Monday and saw a Beekeeper for $20+. I just went into Manhattan, New York City, from where I live, right? And I spent $15 or $14 to be exact, both ways. $7 one way, $7 the others to get home. I just went out the other day and went to eat and spent $20+. But I can go out to a show in a 400-seat venue and see a slew of superstars like Nicholas Crenson, like Soldier GP, like Omen Black, like so many others, Sean Jovi, for only $10. And I'd like to ask you, because we don't know what you're going to be doing, what would you like to do? And what can we expect? Because I'm sure we'll see you here right before the show, as we always do, February the 17th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, King of the Center, IMF's 8-man singles tournament to crown the inaugural King of the Center.
What else would I be doing when there's a tournament going on? I am entering myself in that tournament.
Oh, so you're saying that here, for those that are listening and watching, you're entering the tournament?
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. So what would that mean to you to win this King of the Center? What a great way to talk about the fact that you want 2 championships this year. Well, what way to kick that off by winning the King of the Center?
Honestly, I just had I've had 3 big losses after ending the year pretty big last year. You could say, hey, you can say, hey, losses mean something, don't mean anything or do anything. They don't and do at the same time. I just want to fight. And the best way to fight is in a tournament.
And this would be a great way to redeem yourself through these tough losses that you've had of late and set your sights on propelling you, as I stated a few short minutes ago, on those 2 championships that you've basically said you are targeting. The all-out championship held by the man you were across the apron from in the triple threat match for the IMF Hardcore title, the Picture of Perfection, Kodak Kid. And then the man that currently holds that interstate championship, though, the man that you're responsible for inducting in the Hall of Fame, the resident rock star, Sean Jovi, who's going to be here Saturday night.
And it's not just that, it's just a chance to let off some steam too.
If I told you that I have breaking news about your status in the King of the Center from the management of the IMF, and also before I do that, I want to say we will have full coverage. We will dedicate, I believe it's the 16th. Management can certainly confirm that for us, but the day before the show, we will have a slew of IMF stars, and I will go on the record As I did for the last show, I will formally announce my endorsement of the show. I will make a day for the IMF for the King of the Center. And I will also personally buy a ticket because I like to support those that support us. So I want to make sure that we endorse the show, we endorse the event personally, and also support this great show. And I hope that everybody else is out there tells your friends, goes to the IMF Facebook page, Iowa Midwest Federation Wrestling, Instagram IMF_wrestling, and on YouTube at IMF Wrestling 666 and support this phenomenal show with some phenomenal stars like Nicholas Crenson, like Soldier GP, like Omenbach, because it's his show, by the way, like Kodak Kid, I'm sure, like Tommy the Man Merriman from a company I know with 3 initials called XCW, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But I'm going to give you the news for you, Nicholas Crenson. Since you want to be in the tournament, your first round match against the U.S. champion, who's quickly become one of the more popular stars in the IMF and maybe around this sport of late, Mephisto, with Ace Diamond in his corner. I mean, Nicholas Crenson, just the old adage of be careful what you wish for, because you got Mephisto, who's been on a really impressive run. Maybe more people didn't think that would have happened 5-6 months ago, but here we are, and you're going to have a match that's going to certainly be very tough for you to advance in order to achieve your goal of winning the King of the Center.
Honestly, that actually that makes me excited. Because
why?
Here's the thing, like I mentioned, people like Freddie and
Jason,
and Jordan and Felix, but here's one thing: watching Mephisto, he gets it. He is so naturally gifted in the ring, and honestly, he's going to be an amazing person to fight. And that's what I like to do, is I like to fight people and bring out the best, or have them bring out the best in me. So yeah, it's going to be a hard challenge to deal with, but hell, that's what I like to do. So Mephisto versus Crenson, first round of the IMF King of the Center tournament.
Now, you know, Mr. Crenson, you speak a lot about Mephisto, and Mephisto's been on here a couple times, and, you know, he's certainly been a more entertaining guest, you might say. Now, obviously, as I pointed out, we are going to have a day where we talk about King of the Center, and I was thinking, do you think it'd be a good idea when we do that, that maybe you and Mephisto can be, I don't know, face to face and kind of meet each other here live, and you know, maybe we can have a little chat between the three of us, you know, for about 15 or so minutes. You think that's a good idea?
If he's down for it, I'd be down as well.
You think that management would want to grant that? Because I'm sure we're going to have a slew of stars. I mean, Damian Saint's going to wrestle Omen Black in for the Hardcore Championship. I mean, Tommy the Man Merriman and Soldier GP is going to be here. I mean, that's going to be. I cannot wait. Tommy the Man Merriman. This is a guy I've known for a long time, and Soldier. That's going to be a dream match. I can't wait for that. There's going to be a slew of other matches, but I mean, you know, if you think it's a good idea, management would be thinking it's a good idea. I would love to see you and Mephisto here face to face live on Sportswire Radio right before the show itself. What do you think?
I like it. I like that idea.
And also, I got more breaking news that also management would like to tell us that Mr. Rockstar himself, Sean Jovi, is going to have a rematch in that tournament with the one and only renowned hardcore star, Ox McCoy. And, you know, if Mr. Jovi thought he was done with Ox McCoy, well, not so fast, my friend, to quote Lee Corso. And I think that Mr. Jovi, we're going to have something to talk about. And I'm going to ask Mr. Jovi the same question. Maybe if he wants to face off with Ox McCoy here live on Sportswire Radio right before the show itself. I mean, so Mr. Jovi, you know what? Maybe Mr. Crenson, you'll get him right where you want him, because he's going to be a wounded man, that's for sure, in a rematch where they just squared off just a few short weeks ago, and they're going to face off for the second time in less than 30 days. You have something?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I know a lot to process, a lot to digest. I know this is definitely the earth is about to rumble. Yep.
Oh God. The fact that we're getting Ox and Jovi again makes me happy, just because like I know after watching that match, I think Ox McCoy might have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder,
Well,
and
because the man that beat him went into his own world and beat him.
yeah,
Went into his own world
but
and
it's
beat
not
him.
just that; it's Jovi drew blood, and that sadly for Jovi means karma's gonna get him.
Well, you believe in the old adage, does the clock strike midnight for Cinderella? Does the Cinderella run for the resident rock star Sean Jovi finally strike midnight at the Palo Community Center of February the 17th, 15 days from now? Maybe you believe that. And I have more
I
breaking news here. Yep.
Oh, go ahead. I'm actually loving this.
And I'm loving that people are here because we're on Sportswire Radio. If you want to follow the IMF, I'd like you to do it in a number of different ways because you want to support them because these guys are going to be in a 400 seat venue and they're going to have stars from Iowa, Wisconsin, Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. By the way, I want to remind people Indiana is also going to be in the house. So please support our dear friends. Iowa Midwest Federation Wrestling, Instagram, IMF_wrestling, and YouTube at IMF Wrestling 666. And of course, Soldier GP and Omen Black. Oh, they're only the IMF World and the IMF Hardcore Champions. They're in our Hall of Fame. So we want to support those that are going to support us. And I'm going to formally endorse the show the day before the show. We're going to dedicate a day to the guys. I'm going to donate to the show beforehand. I always like to support those that support us. I'd like to let somebody go on my behalf to go to the venue. I always like to give the kids, the community, an opportunity to go out and see some wrestling. So that's my formal endorsement to the show. So thank you for management. Joe Stone is back. Joe, where have you been? How you guys doing? I'm doing great. And Craven Rage says, Mr. Joe Stone, wonder why. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that, Joe, and I look forward to seeing you back here on Sports Web Radio. But the management apparently says that it looks like we're going to see Craven Rage and the DKW champion of the world, Joe Stone, in the ring. Craven Rage has been in a big slump right now. He's no longer the ruler of the yard, the backyard nightmare that used to be for over 500 days on Sportswire Radio. We saw him for all that time throughout, but now in order for him to get back on track, he's got Joe Stone in the ring. We'll see if he can return to his ways of being the backyard nightmare, the ruler of the yard. It's going to have to start 2 weeks from tomorrow on the 17th. Technically in New York, it's 2 weeks from tomorrow, so that's why I'm saying that. But obviously, you're going to see, I'm sure, Craven Rage and Joe Stone live right before the show, and I would imagine that Darkron saying "Damn Go Stone." Well, yeah, I would think, right? Is there maybe a reason you want to tell us?
Yeah.
Also, I was trying to be facetious, but King Josiah versus Prince Achia. You want to talk about a match where both guys need a win? That's a real. So I think the tournament's kind of set. We got Sean Jovi, Ox McCoy. We've got you and Mephisto, Craven Rage, and Joe Stone, and King Josiah and Prince Achia. That's a pretty good tournament. And that's another reason why you want to go out and support this show. And again, in addition to that, you got Tommy Merriman and Soldier GP for that IMF World title. You got for the hardcore title, you got Omen Black and Damian Saint. And I believe the tag team championships are going to be put on the line. So, I mean, this does not get any better than this. And that's why you want to go out there and support companies like the IMF. Joe Stowe would like to add that he would love to be the king of the set. I feel like he said that like almost like in third person. I would like to add that Joe Stone would love to be in the King of the Center tournament. Almost like I could feel him saying like, what was it? Was it like was it Bob Dole?
Bob Dole. Bob Dole likes fruit.
He used to refer to himself like in the third person. I feel like Joe Stone's gonna like refer to himself like in Joe Stone. But there you go.
I honestly want to say that's probably also where The Rock got the Rock.
Probably, yeah. You know what? At the time, you know what? That's a good point. You know, I hadn't thought of it that way, but good luck, gentlemen. You know, all right. So obviously, as we're coming toward the end of the show, and I'm going to see you back, probably with Mephisto. But let me ask you though, before that, is it be careful what you wish for though in getting a first round matchup like the one you have with Mephisto?
You could say that, but I look at it like this. every time I get into the ring, I learn something. I get better. Win or lose, you learn by fighting. I learned what I am capable of and what I can handle a little bit more thanks to Omen and Kodak. I learned what I'm willing to do and what I'm willing to dig into thanks to those two. Same with Jovi, same with James
But
Marshall.
what's left of you, though? You went through two difficult matches back to back. You went through Darkfire, your longtime nemesis, who you've bullied around for the better part of 15 months. You lost the Hardcore Championship, where Omen Black, the Hardcore God, the Boogeyman of the Midwest, and oh, by the way, also in the ring, Kodak Kid, the picture of perfection. I mean, they put you through hell. I mean, what's left of you coming back 2 weeks from now?
Here's the thing. You can kill me once, you can kill me twice, you can kill me 3 times. I've legally died at least twice in my life, and here's the thing, I still get back up eventually. So that's all there is to it. I'm going to keep fighting until I am nothing but dust.
Interesting there. Nicholas Crenson, Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer, certainly giving us some boastful words here. And people are coming in here more and more and more. So, you know what? I'm going to talk a little more longer. Also, here, yes, Craven and Joe first round match. I'm going to definitely look forward to talking about that. Midwest Express versus Darkron and a mystery partner. And guess what? Darkron's here Tuesday night. I guess I'll have to ask Darkron that question when he gets his place in history in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame for the IMF Tag Team Championship. I'm looking forward to that. Also, Craven Rage wants to tell us I am entering the king of the tournament. And it's not a spoil, it's a fact that I'm going to the show, and the foundation, I'm going to take something away from you.
Oh,
Do
that's
you think
ominous.
do you think though that people take Craven Rage seriously when he says that though, considering that he's ice cold right now? He's ice cold.
That's that's the thing though. He's getting to that dangerous point again. Because he
Is
gets.
he though? Is he?
Here's the thing with Craven is, I think he does his best work when he actually has his back against the wall, and that's
And
what I'm seeing now out of him. Because he's not only lost to Kodak, he tapped out to Kodak, who was practically passing out himself from the pain he was in.
Listen, Craven lost to Jovi.
He lost to Jovi.
Came up short at New Year's Vengeance.
Yeah.
I mean
it's Craven's the type that when he makes an ominous threat, you kind of gotta take it seriously. But like I said, he's desperate, so who knows?
I suppose desperate times call for desperate measures, but I think right now people look at Craven Rage and he's not the backyard nightmare anymore. He's not the ruler of the yard, and he lost the prize that was most valuable to him. And I don't know how many people say, all right, yeah, Craven's got a tough matchup here. Joe Stone's the DKW world champion. Joe Stone's got a lot to prove. Joe Stone's in an environment that he hasn't been in, and he's going to want to show people that, you know what? He's a world heavyweight champion for a reason. And I kind of think that Craven Rage could be in for, well, another nightmare, but this time he's not the one giving out nightmares. He could be in his own nightmare. I mean, it could be. I mean, listen, I'm just saying that Craven Rage, to a lot of people, they looked at his run, as a paper tiger. They looked at him in terms of who he beat and who he struggled to beat, and now they're seeing him on the big stage, and they're looking at it like, is this the guy? I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, that's not my opinion. That's what a lot of people see right now. They see this guy that, we'll have to find out. Look, he'll be here before King of the Center. That's the information on King of the Center. That's where you can find out more information for the IMF. If you want to support Sportswire Radio, here's our information. We're on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. We're at Twitch now at Sportswire Radio. So if you have a Twitch account, you want to follow us, go follow us there. We're also on Instagram at the Sports Report 2021. We have an internet radio station at sportswireradio.org. If you'd like to check us out, like to listen to all of our great podcasts, our great shows, our live music, you want to request things, you can do that there also. And our YouTube channel at Sportswire Radio 6579. Thank you, gentlemen. I mean, we are going to bring the tag titles to the foundation. We'll have to see. All right. Nicholas Crenson, before we sign off for the evening, is there anything else that you'd like to address, whether being in the Hall of Fame, whether it's upcoming here on the 17th of February, whether it's to Mephisto or anybody else out there that's listening tonight?
Mephisto, I'm going to hurt you. I don't mean that as an idle threat. I promise that this is going to be a very painful experience for you. And we're not even using weapons. So Mephisto, good luck, good night, and I will see you February 17th.
Well, what you could have said was usually how I end the shows on Sportswire. It's an old news analogy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening on February the 17th, Mephisto. That's what you could have said, but that would have been...
I could have, or I could have done a little reference to Anchorman.
I always liked the good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because I think I remember when I was in, I was in government class, and they used that line. It was my professor used the line. I'm like, I'm going to remember that line one day. Who knew all these years later I would actually use it? But Trinity, one more time, I want to give a plug to Trinity before we sign off. Trinity is going to be the first female and the first female ring announcer to be in our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, and also on her birthday, February the 25th. I mean, I don't know how it gets any better than if I'm Trinity. Like, that's got to be as good as it gets. I mean, Justin Parsley got in the XCW Hall of Fame and the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame in one day, but Trinity's got a birthday. She's going to be the first female in the Hall of Fame and the first female ring announcer in the Hall of Fame. That ain't bad. I tell you what, that's certainly, well-deserved, and I couldn't think of a better person to be in our Hall of Fame to be our first female than Trinity Parker, who's doing so many great things for us. And Craven's excited. Of course he's excited because he's back in a championship situation. And I'm going to see Darkron and Matthew Forsaken Tuesday night, 11 o'clock, to take their place in history. And before we sign off one more time, Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah, there you have it, our 28th member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame on this date, February the 1st, 2024. My name, my signature, our logo, here's what it is. And that's a real living piece of what the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame is. And unlike that company in Stanford, or used to be in Stanford, now they're in Florida officially now, we actually have physical things for a Hall of Fame. And if you want to go to sportswireradio.org, that's where you can see all of our inductees that are in the Hall of Fame. So whether it's Nicholas Crenson, whether it's Dean Allmark, R.P. Davis, Justin Parsley, Fletch, Chris Jones, whether it's Ernest Dove, whether it's all the Sportswire Radio analysts, whether it's Luke Leyland, whether it's anybody else that's in the Hall of Fame, anybody you like, Jackson Law. Big shout out to Jackson Law. Jackson, of course, was at the IMF Winter Class show. Jackson's in our Hall of Fame. All the guys from TBW, Fletch, also alongside him is Josh Allen, the TBW owner. So many, many, many great people that are in our Hall of Fame, and you can check them all out on sportswireradio.org. Also want to give a shout out to DVG. DVG, that voice guy, has 76,000 subscribers on YouTube. He was inducted into our Hall of Fame. Also want to shout out as well Cyrus, the It Factor, the DBW Global Champion in our Hall of Fame, Chase Wakefield, Aaron Jones, best friend. So we have a great group of people. You can check all of them out in our sportswireradio.org website. I think, Nicholas Crenson, I've pretty much said enough that I can think of. I turn over to you, my friend, for closing thoughts and anything else you want to plug on this monumental day. And congratulations one more time. As I stated, not only did you get in the Hall of Fame, you inducted Sean Jovi, the resident rock star, in the Hall of Fame Saturday, pretty much for what you did and kind of putting him on the path that he's definitely on and where he is now. And maybe you even take a little bit from him back rather than what Craven Rage says about taking something else from the foundation. But I speak no further. I give you the floor. I also want to put up your social medias because we plugged them earlier in the show, but let's do it here one more time. And the floor is yours, my friend, and fire away.
Oh, Tom, this has been an honor and a privilege. And anybody who watches my stuff, if you like it, great. If you don't, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But I will say this: wrestling is the thing that saves my life, and it will
Right.
always be one of the top things that I love with a passion. Um, and Mephisto, Craven, Jovi, Ox, Joe Stone, King Josiah, Prince of Chia, everybody in that tournament. Let's get ready for a battle, guys.
Let's get ready to rumble! February the 17th. King of the Center. I cannot wait for that at the Palo Community Center. It's going to be one for the ages, and Nicholas Crenson's going to be able to absolutely be one of those guys to keep an eye on and definitely watch out for. And also, for those that are listening and watching, I just want to say it real quick. I know you talked about how wrestling saved your life. And I just want to say it that because the big cheese, the tribal cheese, had posted a video on social media about kind of mental health. If there's anybody out there that's going through anything for our wrestlers or anybody else in general, you can always message me anytime. I answer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So if there's any time you're feeling whatever's on your mind, you can always reach out to me, make fun of me, whatever else you want to say. But I'm only kidding. Obviously, if I ever feel like you need to reach out, I'm always available. I'm here. And I want to thank all of my supporters out there. And also, I want to thank you, Nicholas Crenson, for everything you've done. You've been one of the memorable guests that we've had here over the past year and a half. You've been on many times, and I look forward to watching you on the 17th and seeing you and Mephisto here live before the Donnybrook happens here on Sportswire Radio. So congratulations, my friend. Thank you for all you do. You definitely earned this. I have no doubt that we'll see you Saturday. And maybe you will drive a little less to Iowa this time. And maybe even you will do a better job in the editing, or also maybe quote unquote some of the if from a bird I've heard from WC returns some of their announcing and everything else. Maybe we'll even see you on a vlog or two from some guy that might be coming on Saturday. But hey, you know what? Whatever. I don't know. But I just wanted to throw that out there. And James Taylor, going to be seeing him next Sunday after the big game. And I'm sure you'll be tuned in for that. But congratulations, my friend. And I look forward to seeing you here real soon. I have no doubt about it.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, everybody who's tuned in tonight. Love you all. Have a wonderful evening. And goodbye, folks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the 28th member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. That is the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson. You can follow him on Instagram and Threads at Endiku with all the underscores below each letter. Also, Twitch and YouTube at Hell Folks, it's Endiku. And Facebook at Nicholas Crenson. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. Yes.
And also at Nicholas Crenson on YouTube as well for my wrestling stuff.
Okay, yes. And do that as well. Make sure you follow him there, Facebook and YouTube at Nicholas Crenson, and Instagram and Threads, Endiku underscores before each letter. Twitch and YouTube, hello folks, Endiku. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. If you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer and other music jingles that I have for the next few hours. Yep, we have that. And then we'll have some more podcasts. I think Fletch and Jaden, a.k.a. XCW guys. You might have heard one guy with the CT. Their podcast is going to play throughout the night. But if you're on sportswireradio.org, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, I'll be back 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time with British wrestling star Brad Coleman, the artist formerly known as Kyle Kennedy. He's going to have a pipe bomb or two to drop. I'll be back here at 10 o'clock also for coverage on post SmackDown, also post plans with CM Punk's injury and everything else that's going on in the wrestling world. You hang out with myself and a number of different guys from Sportswire Radio. And Saturday night, one more time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, Sean Jovi, to conclude our third class in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, takes his place alongside Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah, the man that's pretty much responsible for Sean Jovi being in the Hall of Fame. But until then, thank you, Trinity. We'll see you on the 25th. We'll see James Taylor after the big game. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one level radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. And thank